It's April 4th, 2020, and Ireland is in the depths of lockdown. The streets are empty and most people are confined to their homes. But on this quiet Saturday, rumours explode throughout Ireland. Robbie Lawlor, one of the country's most feared gangsters, has been shot dead.
He was shot up to 4 times in the head on the driveway of a house on Etna Drive. The 35-year-old father of 3 was the chief suspect in the murder of 17-year-old Keane Mulready-Woods in Drogheda in January.
Known as a dead man walking, he'd made countless enemies. It was just a matter of who would strike first. But what led to his violent end? And who pulled the trigger? To understand this, we need to go back and see how Robbie Lawlor, a kid from Coolock, Dublin, became one of the most feared figures in Irish organised crime. One of Dublin's most disadvantaged neighbourhoods, where poverty, drugs and violence were deeply rooted in the community. In the 1970s and 80s, areas like Coolock and Darndale saw rapid development, shifting from farmland to large housing estates. As part of an effort to move residents out of the inner city's dangerous tenement buildings, Dublin city officials promised Coolock's new residents a better quality of life. However, these promises went largely unfulfilled, and Coolock's young residents found themselves in an area lacking proper support or resources. Heroin soon flooded the community, triggering widespread addiction and attracting organised crime. As crime took hold of Coolock, many young people saw few legitimate opportunities for a better future. Instead, organised crime presented a path, providing money and status. Teenagers in these neighbourhoods could find employment in the criminal economy, starting as runners or debt collectors and moving up to more substantial roles like enforcers and hitmen. Lawlor, a Coolock native, was no exception, and he entered the criminal world as a teenager. From early on, Lawlor distinguished himself with his unpredictability and violent tendencies. Described as volatile and erratic, he embraced violence. By the time he was in his late teens, he was considered one of the city's most dangerous individuals, capable of acts others would hesitate to commit. His ruthlessness would soon make him a key figure in Dublin's organised crime scene. Robbie Lawlor's violent reputation truly took hold with the murder of Mark Byrne, a seasoned criminal who had once clashed with Lawlor in prison. While still behind bars, Lawlor had a serious falling out with Byrne, a more established figure in Dublin's underworld. Known to hold grudges, Lawlor didn't let the conflict end with his prison sentence. On May 5th, Byrne was granted temporary release from Mountjoy Prison, where he had been serving a 4-year sentence. Just 10 minutes after stepping outside, as he walked toward Phibsborough in Dublin, he was fatally shot in the head and chest. The attack was swift and brutal, leaving him dead at the scene. According to witness accounts, after Byrne collapsed to the ground, Lawlor leaned in close, making sure Byrne was dead before fleeing the scene. This murder was far from a typical gangland attack. Lawlor's decision to kill for a personal grudge set him apart in a world where violence was typically motivated by business, loyalty, or hierarchy. From this point on, Lawlor became a notorious figure. By 2010, Dublin's gangland landscape was shifting, and Robbie Lawlor was at the heart of it. His connection to Richie Carbery, his brother-in-law, and a significant figure in the criminal world, positioned him as a central player in the Drogheda feud. Carbery had moved to Bettystown and set his sights on Drogheda as a prime area to expand his drug empire. With Drogheda growing into a major commuter town, the demand for cocaine surged as weekend commuters from Dublin sought drugs to fuel a party lifestyle. Carbery recognized this opportunity and began establishing a stronghold in the area. The Maguire gang had long controlled Drogheda, but their dominance was threatened as younger, more ambitious members grew frustrated and began battling for control. This internal conflict created an opening for Carbery, who saw potential allies in the younger faction looking to break away from Maguire's control. Carbery offered weapons and a steady drug supply to the new faction, encouraging them to go to war with their former allies to take over Drogheda. He provided not only resources, but also his secret weapon, Robbie Lawlor. Lawlor was notorious for his erratic and impulsive behavior, which made him unpredictable and feared by those on both sides of the feud. Although he was in and out of prison, he regularly assisted Carbery, operating as an enforcer and using extreme violence to intimidate anyone who stood against them. His involvement was marked by continual clashes with individuals like Cornelius Price, an ally of Maguire, In 2019, while Lawlor was in prison, Richie Carberry was murdered in a suspected revenge attack, believed by many to have been orchestrated by the Maguire gang. When Lawlor was released, he went on the offensive, targeting Maguire's associates. Lawlor was suspected in the non-fatal shooting of Owen Maguire, the gang's leader, leaving Maguire paralyzed. Robbie Lawlor's most infamous crime took place in January 2020. On the night of January 12th, Keane Mulready-Woods left his home for what would tragically be the last time. Earlier that evening, he had called his mother, asking her to leave money out for a taxi so he could return home later. Unbeknownst to him, he had been lured into a deadly trap. Paul Crosby had met with Keane, and Gerard Cruz was the driver who transported them to 31 Rathmullen Park, a house connected to Crosby, a well-known gangster closely associated with Robbie Lawlor, who was waiting for him inside the house. Initially, it's believed that the intent was to rough Keane up, to scare him as a warning. But as the night unfolded, the plan took a far more violent turn. Once inside the house, Keane was overpowered, beaten, and tortured. According to Gardaí reports, Robbie Lawlor then delivered the fatal blow, stabbing Keane in the neck and leaving him bleeding on the floor. However, Lawlor didn't stop there. He then proceeded to dismember Keane's body. Using a knife, Lawlor meticulously cut Keane into pieces. Paul Crosby and Gerard Cruz, though not directly involved in the killing, played crucial roles in setting the trap. But the murder wasn't about hiding the evidence. Lawlor's goal was to make sure Keane's death sent a message to his rivals. He packed Keane's remains into a black Puma sports bag alongside a symbolic addition, a pair of flip-flops. Keane's remains were then disposed of in 2 separate locations. The sports bag containing his limbs was discarded in Coolock, while his head and hands were placed in a burning car in Drumcondra. A clear, single motive for the murder of Keane was never explicitly confirmed by investigators beyond the ongoing gang war, but there are strong indications as to why Keane Mulready-Woods became a target. One likely motive is Keane's close connection to Owen Maguire. As Maguire's godson, Keane was considered part of his inner circle, which alone could have painted a target on his back. Robbie Lawlor, who had been locked in a vicious rivalry with Maguire's gang, saw Keane as a prime target. The animosity between Lawlor and Maguire reached its peak after Maguire was left paralyzed in a 2018 assassination attempt, later confirmed to have been carried out by Lawlor. After this attack, the feud intensified, with each side escalating their violence. Another likely motive was revenge for an earlier humiliation Lawlor had suffered.
Yes! That's only the start of it! That's only the start of it! That's only the start of it, Robbie!
In December 2019, just weeks before Keane's death, Lawlor was ambushed by a group of youths after leaving a Dublin gym. The attack was recorded and shared widely on social media, tarnishing Lawlor's feared reputation. This act was described in the media as narco-terrorism, a level of violence that mirrored tactics seen in cartels and was rarely witnessed in Ireland. Newspapers across the world, even as far as Mexico, reported on the horrific crime. At the time, though widely suspected to be Lawlor's doing, authorities couldn't publicly accuse him as he was alive, and they needed concrete evidence. But within Ireland's criminal circles, there was little doubt about who was behind the murder. The Gardaí were well aware that Lawlor was the chief suspect in Woods' murder. This crime not only escalated the ongoing Drogheda feud, but also set a new, darker standard in Ireland's gang conflicts. In the months leading up to his death, Robbie Lawlor's life grew increasingly chaotic. He moved back and forth between Ireland and Northern Ireland, frequently travelling to Belfast. In Belfast's Cathedral Quarter, he was seen openly, often collecting drug debts for various gangs, including amounts he claimed were owed to his murdered brother-in-law, Richie Carberry. Lawlor's presence in Northern Ireland, especially in Republican areas traditionally off-limits to Dublin criminals, was a bold display that suggested he didn't fear retaliation. Lawlor's confidence was so high that he even took to social media to document his movements, posting videos that showcased his behavior as he openly challenged his enemies. During this period, Lawlor entered a relationship with a middle-class businesswoman connected to the legal profession. Law enforcement officials became aware of this relationship and grew concerned for her safety. They had observed Lawlor leaving flowers on her car doors in a way that initially appeared threatening. The Gardaí approached her to offer support if she felt intimidated, but she laughed off their concerns, revealing that her relationship with Lawlor was mutual. This relationship continued even after Lawlor's suspected involvement in Keane Woods' murder, with the Gardaí later learning that the woman had planned to travel with her children to visit Lawlor in Belfast. Robbie Lawlor's violent end came on April 4th, 2020, as a result of months of planning. Cornelius Price, a prominent gang boss, had a deep grudge against Lawlor. Their animosity had escalated after Lawlor was suspected of orchestrating the brutal murder and dismemberment of 17-year-old Keane Mulready-Woods, a killing that left Price and his associates outraged. The Irish Mirror reported that Price paid over €100,000 to have Lawlor assassinated. The setup was complex. Price allegedly lured Lawlor to Belfast with a fake hit job, using contacts he made within Mountjoy prison. Price had fled to the UK weeks earlier, fearing that Lawlor, known for seeking revenge, would target him first after his release from prison. Lawlor blamed Price for the murder of his brother-in-law, Richie Carberry, and had openly declared that he would get his revenge. Price, now working closely with several factions, organized a complex hit. Lawlor was invited to a house on Etna Drive in the Ardoyne area of Belfast under the guise of a job. He was unaware that gunmen awaited him inside. As he entered, Lawlor was shot multiple times, killed on the spot in what police would later call an appointment killing. Several notable criminals were initially detained in connection with the hit, including Jar Dundon, Levi Keane, and Quincy Bramble, all linked to the infamous Dundon crime family. While they were quickly released, suspicions lingered. Gardaí soon discovered €50,000 in cash, believed to be part of the bounty on Lawlor during a surveillance operation involving Dundon associates. Sources suggested that the funds were a down payment for Lawlor's assassination, although no concrete evidence directly linked these individuals to the murder. The Gardaí suspected up to 20 people may have been involved in planning and carrying out the hit. Hours after Lawlor's assassination, Price posted a video online openly toasting Lawlor's death.
The video. This is to Robbie Lawlor, boys, rest in peace. He's not even worth saying rest in peace, but fair play to you. There you go, boys.
Captain Morgan.
Captain Morgan.
At the same time, Owen Maguire, the gang boss who was paralysed by Lawlor, also posted a video celebrating his death.
What can I say, boys? Two in the head, now he's dead. Up his hole, the dirty scumbaggy bastard. Long runs the fox, he got it.
Patrick Tier, Adrian Holland, and James Fields were later charged in connection with the killing, though they denied involvement. For now, the investigation remains open, as Gardaí seek to untangle the network of criminal allegiances and vendettas surrounding Robbie Lawlor's violent end. Robbie Lawlor may be gone, but the power struggles and vendettas he left behind continue to unfold in Ireland's shadowy criminal world. Lawlor lived fast, burned bridges, and met his end in the same ruthless way he lived. For those who knew him, it wasn't a question of if he would be killed, but when.